Hey guys, this is Oracle Daphne. My name is Beth, and I'm back today to talk about how to regulate your menstrual cycle when you have PCOS or fluctuating hormones and you just want to learn how to regulate your cycle. This is not for anybody who's on the pill. This is not for anybody who's, taking other medication that might interfere. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to prescribe anything. I'm just here to talk about what my experience has been with regulating my cycle, and this is something that I discovered that works for me. And I've told this to clients before who have taken it and has worked for them. So I just wanted to share it with you guys because for those of you who are suffering with PCOS, it's really frustrating to know what to take. I have PCOS and the doctors were like, we can put you on progesterone, we can put you on the pill, which was what messed me up to begin with, or we can put you on metformin. And none of those were options to me. So I basically spent years trying to take herbal medicine, try to make my own tinctures and try to experiment with taking different things. And sometimes they'd work, but then for like a couple of months after, my period would stop again. And I am actually on the cusp of being a diabetic. I tell everybody that I'm a diabetic, but basically a pre-diabetic. And so if you are also pre-diabetic, this will also help you, because if you are pre-diabetic or diabetic, then your PCOS is going to be a lot worse. And my PCOS progressed to the point where I was hemorrhaging every time I had a cycle. The worst point was where I stayed in the bathroom for 4 days, and I bled at the toilet for 4 days. Obviously, I went and I ate something during those 4 days, but I basically spent the entire time in the bathroom. And then went to the hospital, and the hospital told me that I needed to go see my OBGYN, and it took an entire weekend to finally get in. And then when I got in, then they told me, my OBGYN told me, Beth, we're going to put you on the pill, or we're going to give you progesterone, or we're going to give you metformin. And I said, no. I said, no, that's not going to work for me. So I went on this thing where I was like, okay, I just have to figure out how to regulate my cycle. So I started taking Anthony's maca root powder. Okay, so this is what I take. This is all that I take. Well, sometimes I take saw palmetto if I'm really, really emotional. Like if this is causing me to have like extreme, emotions, because again, when you're trying to regulate your cycle, especially if you're female, you're going to have some PMS. Okay, so sometimes I take saw palmetto, and I will put a link for the saw palmetto powder also down below. But for the most part, I take this maca root powder. And if for those of you who haven't had a period in a long time because you've had PCOS, or you're older, I'm 36, but say you're 41 or 42 and you're trying to regulate your cycle, you're going to want to start with taking more, okay? And then it'll bring on your period. And if you're a smaller person than I am, then you're going to want to adjust it and actually take a little bit less. If you're larger than I am, you're going to want to take a little bit more. So I weigh 190 something pounds, okay, approximately. I've lost weight, so it could be actually a little bit less than that. But if you're way less than I do, you're going to want to take a little bit less. And if you weigh more than I do, you're going to want to take a little bit more. The way I start is taking the amount of maca root in small quantities based on the way a woman's body naturally has a cycle. So I adjust it according to a woman's cycle. So in the beginning, a woman's level of estrogen is actually increasing for the first 2 weeks of her cycle, and then she ovulates. And then that estrogen drops dramatically, which is why there's a lot of PMS symptoms at that time. And then the level of progesterone is supposed to increase. The problem with people who have PCOS is that their hormones are just not synced up correctly. They're kind of all over the place. They could ovulate but not have a period. They could have a period, but it could be really, really bad because there's just too much of a lot of times too much estrogen and not enough progesterone. The maca root, to me, it feels like it's like a natural form of progesterone. So you don't have the symptoms of as if you were taking progesterone, but it acts sort of like progesterone. So in the beginning of my cycle, say you're starting day 1, okay, say day 1 of your period, okay, you're not going to want to take too much of this in the beginning when you're on your period. Day 1, 2, and 3, I typically, or 4 of my period, I won't take any maca root at all. Sometimes it depends on how hormonal I am. I'll basically stay on it I'll stay on the maca root. I'll take it almost every single day. I usually stop taking it once my period has been established. So say like day 2, 3, and 4 of my period, I won't take the maca root, but then I'll start again. Okay, so how I start is you're gonna want to get, this is what I use. I know it seems rudimentary, but this is what I use. Some measuring spoons, okay? For those of you who weigh less than I do, you can start off with a 1/4 teaspoon, okay? A 1/4 teaspoon. And you just take a 1/4 teaspoon of the maca root powder. You measure it out like this. You measure it out, and you put it in a jar. And then you put some water in there. And you let it dissolve, okay? You can mix it around until it's completely dissolved, and then you'll drink it, okay? It doesn't really taste like anything. I have had best results taking it this way. If I mix it into a smoothie, I feel like it's less effective, okay? So those of you who maybe don't like the taste, you could add something to it if you wanted to, juice or something. But this is how I take it. I'm pretty much straight up taking it this way, okay? As your cycle changes, okay? So once your period has stopped, then you definitely want to be taking it every day, okay? Up until the 2nd week, in which you'll increase it to 1/2 teaspoon. So you go from a 1/4 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon. And again, you'll just measure it like this, and you put it in your jar with water and mix it around and drink it. Okay, whether you want to take it at night or in the morning is up to you, whenever you feel like taking it. If you have missed a period, let's just say you've missed a period, or your cycle is really irregular and it's been several months since you had a period, you're going to want to start taking, this is going to seem like a lot, 1 tablespoon. Okay, you're going to want to take 1 whole tablespoon of the maca root powder. You're going to take the tablespoon, you're going to fill it up like this, and then you're going to put it in your jar and you're going to fill it with water. That's what you're going to want to do. So say you've taken the maca root for a month, but say you were a little bit late. Instead of a 32-day cycle, you had a 36-day cycle. Instead of starting again with the 1/4 tablespoon, you're going to want to take quarter teaspoon, you're going to take 1/2 teaspoon. Okay, so ladies you are a little bit older, maybe 35 or older, you're going to want to start with half a teaspoon. Okay, 1/2 teaspoon as soon as you've gotten your period. Okay, and you'll take it until week 2, so it'll be day 8 approximately, and then you'll actually increase it. You'll increase how much you're taking to 1 teaspoon for the next week. Okay, and also the following week. Okay, so by day 21, okay, if you are still consistently taking it, you should be increasing it by day 21. Okay, so day 21 through 28, or through the end of your period, you can increase it. I don't like increasing it to 1 tablespoon until the very end. So around day 27, 28, I'll increase it to 1 tablespoon. Okay, so basically you'll start off small. For those of you who are a little bit way less than I do and more petite, you're going to want to take 1/4 teaspoon and then increase it to 1/2 teaspoon, and then eventually increase it to 1 teaspoon. Okay. if you weigh more than I do, or approximately about the same size, you're going to want to start off with half a teaspoon, then increase it to 1 teaspoon, and then increase it to 1 tablespoon just before you get your period. If you've missed your period, you can start with 1 tablespoon or 1 teaspoon. It depends on, again, how big you are, and then your period will come. Take it every single day, and then your period will come. So I'm going to write all of this down below so you can see how I do it. Essentially, you are progressively increasing the amount of maca root that you're taking. That's the idea here. You start off small because the maca root is kind of like, it sort of like mimics natural progesterone. So in the beginning of your cycle is naturally estrogen dominant, and then you ovulate and then it's more progesterone dominant, which is why the last 2 weeks of your cycle, you don't want to miss it. So say some of you, and I've tried this before, it doesn't work as well, but it does help. Say you want to increase the amount of progesterone that you have and make sure that you're going to get your period. You can take it for the last 2 weeks of your cycle and you'll still most likely get your period. The thing that I like about taking this in sort of increments is that it regulates my cycle to be pretty much every 32 days. Now, some of you, you're going to be regulated to every 28 days, and some of you might actually be regulated to like less. Maybe some of you are on a natural 25-day cycle or 26-day cycle. It depends on your body. Everybody's going to have their own natural cycle. My cycle is naturally 32 days, like regimented. Since I started doing this, it's been, I think, 8 months of 32-day cycles, exact 32-day cycles. I know I'm going to get my period day 32. I think there was maybe 1 month in the beginning, or I don't know, 1 month in there maybe, where it was like I missed it, and I started taking a tablespoon of the maca root, and then it came again, and then I started my cycle over, and I increased the amount of maca root that I was taking. So instead of me starting off with a 1/4 teaspoon, I started off with half a teaspoon, okay? So you're gonna wanna take half a teaspoon up until you increase it by day 14. Day 14, you're increasing it to 1 teaspoon, okay? And then you're taking this basically to almost the end of your cycle, in which you're increasing it at the tail end of your cycle to 1 tablespoon. That's how I do it. It's very simple. If you guys have questions, definitely hit me up in the comments below. Like I said, this is how I regulate my cycle. This is how I've gone pretty much without having to take the pill and without having to go on metformin. Those of you who are also like pre-diabetic and suffer from like really, really terrible periods, I feel like this is going to help actually regulate your cycle so it's not going to be as bad, and definitely let me know in the comments if it's helped at all. And I'm hoping that that's my intention, is I hope that it helps so many women who are struggling. Like I said, I struggled and it was really, really terrible for me. And now that I take this, it's pretty much, like I said, it regulates it. So I don't have to think about it too much. And those of you, maybe you forget one day, it's okay. You're probably not going to even notice if you forget to take it. I have forgotten to take it a couple of times, and it's not a big deal. If that happens, take it the following morning. Like if you were supposed to take it, the previous night, take it the following morning. The next day, it will still work. It's not like if you miss one time, it's going to be the end. The thing about it being natural, maca root is natural, is that it's it's just like something that you don't have to worry that it's damaging your body. Maca root has a lot of really positive things, about it. You should definitely do some research on maca root itself. It's a really cool root, and I'm just really lucky that I figured this out. It's kind of like my own system of trying to regulate my cycle, and it's worked. And so for those of you who struggle, my heart goes out to you, and let me know, how successful you are. Obviously, if you're trying to get pregnant, here's another thing. You're going to you can increase this how much you take around day 14, maybe day 12, 13, 14, 15 of your cycle, and increase it to maybe like a tablespoon or a teaspoon. If you're whatever, according to however much you're going to take. If you're a smaller person or a larger person, like if day 14, I'm going to be continuing to take 1 teaspoon. Day 14. Okay. So if I'm trying to get pregnant, I might double that. Okay. Or if I'm really serious about getting pregnant, I might triple that or take the tablespoon. It's because this is not an exact science, it's really going to depend on each person. Okay. As far as like, ramping up your fertility, I feel like this is definitely going to help you. And maca root is something that a lot of women have taken as a natural supplement to increase their fertility. So, you may also try to take it in capsule form. Like if you don't like the taste of the maca root powder, taking it in capsule form may work better for you. Serving size, 1 teaspoon is 5 grams. Okay, so you're going to want to read how many grams is in like a capsule and the equivalent. I'm not a math person, so I can't help you there, but I can just tell you that the way I start my cycle is usually with 1/2 of a teaspoon, and then I increase it as my cycle progresses and just before I get my period. So I'm taking the most just before I get my period, and then I take the least around my period. Sometimes if I feel like my period isn't that strong in the beginning, I'll continue to take small amounts. So I'll take a 1/4 teaspoon just in the beginning of my period, and then my period will come out much stronger. And then once my period is established, I'll stop taking it for a couple of days. Essentially, it's usually only 3 or 4 days during the entire month where I've stopped taking it. And actually, this is like really inexpensive too. So it's cheaper than being on a pill. It's cheaper than trying to, take progesterone, which is not as natural. So thank you guys so much for liking, sharing, subscribing, Google Plusing. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's watched this video. And if you have other comments, questions, definitely hit me up. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm just sharing what worked for me. Hopefully it works for you. And I'm sharing this. I had originally shared some videos about PCOS on my A Closet for Francis channel, but I wanted to share it on this channel because this is a direction that I want to go with my channel, and because more people are going to have access to watching it. My other channel is a lot smaller. It's not a lot of subscribers, and I wanted women to find an answer, because to me this is like an answer. This is like a blessing to know how to regulate your cycle. Most women don't know how to do this. Most women are suffering, and hopefully I've helped some. So thanks so much, and I will talk to you guys again soon. All right, take care. All the best. Bye.